everyone, it's Sean from STK Markets here today. We've started a new financial year. Interest rates were put on pause, which was great. A bit of more positive sentiment out there in the markets, we're hoping, for this year moving forward. But what we are doing is we're updating everyone on how Aegros is going. We're obviously midway through this second phase of the clinical trial. We've got some very exciting updates for you today. But firstly, what I'd like to do is welcome John and Hari. And welcome, guys. Thanks for joining us today.
Hello, how are you? Thank you very much, Sean.
Okay.
Pleasure to come back for another year.
Yeah, it's going to be a big one, I hope. It's certainly looking that way. Now, everyone's been asking me what's happening with this clinical trial. I mean, COVID's obviously still around. It's out there. It's not as publicised anymore, but it's certainly still prevalent. I know my wife had a COVID test the other day because she wasn't feeling that well. But can we just get an update where this Covimmune clinical trial's at and how we're going with injecting patients and where we're up to?
Sure. When we updated you last, I actually reported the fact that we were doing our Sentinel group. Now, that Sentinel group is now complete. That is, 3 participants in the Sentinel group have been dosed with Covimmune, or the Hyperimmune against COVID. And what we've actually done is shown that the patients are safe and healthy. So we've had no adverse reactions to talk about. This has been then looked at by a separate safety committee. And that safety committee is composed of 2 independent doctors. And they have then recommended their findings to the Human Ethics Committee. The Human Ethics Committee then came back and said to us that they are now happy for us to proceed with the rest of the trial. The rest of the trial means we dose a further 12 subjects. Now, the recruitment for that is now going. I can tell you as of yesterday, we had about 160 responses. What usually happens with this is there's a vetting of these subjects. We do a pre-screen, and then we'll then start dosing. We expect that to happen starting sometime next week, and then we'll finish the 12 subjects that we've got to do. So the trial is going strong, it's going well, and the most important bit of news here is that what we are manufacturing as a product is safe to use in a human being.
That's fantastic. So just recapping the major points that I've noticed through that, you've had independent doctors, you've had an independent body look at the results because it's completely independent to Aegros, this trial. So we're seeing that further validation by independent sources that what Aegros is about, which is fractionating blood in a much more economical and better way than what our competitors are, we're actually delivering a safe product. And to get through these first 3 Sentinels to get to the next 12, which is the most important, these 3 were the highest risk. We've got through that with flying colours, and that's been reported independently.
Exactly right.
Yeah, and the Human Ethics Committee is a totally separate entity to even our CRO. So, that is, for them to sign off, they're only going to do so because of the results.
I mean, you made a very salient point here. There's a very interesting article in one of the medical journals which talks about the importance of independent safety committees. And that's exactly what we have. Because what an independent safety committee does is that it's distant from the company, and they independently validate not only the trial, but the safety of the individuals participating in the trial. And that's exactly where we are.
So that's fantastic. So the recruitment process, 160 people applied. Now, that's just huge because obviously this second round, there's a lot less risk to the patients because it's already been injected into the Sentinels. So is that a lot more people that we've had apply in the past? Will it be a much quicker process now that we've done the first 3?
I think that because we've got so many respondents to our media recruitment process, it's going to become easier, and I say that in inverted commas, to get the number of people that we want to complete the trial. But the trial is you do go through the screening the way we have done the screening before. It's going to be very, very stringent, and the whole idea here is to make sure that we do things exactly the way we did it for the Sentinel group. So as far as the Human Ethics Committee is concerned, we're doing things correctly and we're doing things safely, and that is paramount.
Yeah, and while we truly expect this will complete by, as in the dosing, by sometime in August, we will not, and I keep going back to this, we will not shortcut. We will not do anything which in any way puts at risk this clinical trial. And if it takes longer for reasons outside of our control, it takes longer.
Yeah. The other thing that I can add is also that we have released the last batch of Covimmune, which means that there is enough vials for the whole of the trial. Now, the other thing that I can tell you is that the plan is at the end of this trial, we will be recruiting 5 more immuno-compromised patients so that we can give immuno-compromised patients this drug as well. And the idea there, this is our target patient group. You've got to remember, immunocompromised patients really need this hyperimmune so that you can protect them from further disease. So this trial will continue into the immunocompromised patients. This is not going to, just before you ask the question, affect our ARTG registration. It's only going to help us do that. But it will show the world that not only is Covimmune important for the passive immunity in patients, but in normal subjects, but it's also important for immunocompromised patients.
That sounds wonderful. So we're getting to the tail end of this trial, which is what we've really wanted to see. We're getting there safely. We've hit that major milestone of getting those 3 Sentinels done. Now, the next thing I do get asked quite a lot is there a market for it? Are you still getting contacted by other countries? I know it's happened in the past. Is there still a market for Covimmune, you think, at this stage?
I don't think there's any question about whether there's a market for Covimmune. As I just said, we are getting a large number of questions about when this product will come out. And the reason for that is the urgent, and I repeat this, the urgent requirement for this product, especially in immunocompromised patients. I can also mention, and I think we've done this in the past, that we've been working on a clinical trial of 350 patients in the United States, where we are going to be giving this particular product to immunocompromised patients and looking at whether we can help them not go into hospitals and actually not die when they get things like COVID. So
this will be, most important, this will be a treatment.
It will be a treatment, exactly. And so look, the interest in this particular product is huge. And therefore, ipso facto, there's a huge market.
Yeah, and I think the point that Hari is making needs to be reinforced, and that is we were approached by the premier centers in the US so that they could get access to this product for their patients in the US. Now, we've never put on any of our budgets or forecasts any entrance into the US market. The fact that these people have approached us, these institutions have approached us and are willing to work with us to do this 300-odd patient study, I think, Sean, speaks volumes to the market and the demand for this product.
There's one thing I keep hearing, which I'm really satisfied with being quite a large shareholder personally, and we put a lot of our clients into Aegros, as you know. Independent. Someone's come to us.
Absolutely.
We're not having to knock on doors anymore. The door just keeps getting knocked on, and there's obviously a lot of room for growth. Now, that brings us to the next point. The Sydney facility, whilst it was a world-class facility for hyperimmunes with what you had established there, and it was TGA accredited, we're uplifting it, we're redeveloping it, we're increasing the yield that it can produce and the volume that it can produce, which is obviously a lot more revenue for shareholders, which means a much higher share price. How's that upgrade going?
Well, that upgrade is just started. We literally closed it down about 2 weeks ago, and it is now going to go through a complete strip out, and then we've got to renovate, put in our new facility. And the reason for doing this is that we're lifting it from the current 30,000 to over 100,000. 100,000 is the base, and from there, I'm not too sure how much higher, but it will certainly be significantly higher than that in this one facility that we'll be able to process.
So how it's going, as John said, it's going according to plan.
Yep.
We have already taken receipt of close to $11 million worth of scaled up equipment. If you come to our facility, you will actually see demountables outside the warehouse, and
in hard hats.
And we've already started moving things from the warehouse. We've started looking at where different instruments have got to be stored during the process. So there's a lot of activity, and there's also a lot of activity amongst our staff, because they've got to now get ready for validation exercises. They've got to make sure that the paperwork is done whilst all the renovation is being done as well. So in short, it's going as well as it can go. And we're very comfortable that we'll get this work done by the end of the year into next year.
I mean, it's a huge project. It's about a $25 million just on that facility spend by the time we finish. And there are two components to it. There's one, which is all of the equipment and the physical stuff. And then there's all of the paperwork, the documentation, so that the process can, once we come back online, we want this as close to paperless or digitized, if you like, as is physically possible, so that we have cutting edge manufacturing. And obviously that will lead to less staff in the future, but it's more about control. By getting that total digital control, you are making sure that everything happens as per the instructions, the SOPs, and not any human variation.
Regulatorily speaking, safety is paramount in the manufacture of a therapeutic product. And when you get rid of the errors, the human error element of all this, the more safe the product is.
Yeah.
But also it's the capture of information. And in this new age of artificial intelligence and digitization, what we are swinging towards is to make sure that the information that we collect can be first held safely, but also analyzed in very quick time, so that we can then report in a very systematic manner,
yeah,
and provide it to the regulatory authorities.
Okay, that's wonderful. So not only do we have Sydney as a revenue source, which from all accounts we've looked at, we're expecting about 300 million profit a year just from a Sydney facility. We've also got the 1 million litre facility happening up in Queensland, where we've had very senior government officials discussing with the National Blood Authority, the TGA, will they buy plasma from you? They've all virtually said they would love to, depending on a clinical trial for the process. How is Queensland progressing? And are we any closer to turning dirt? I know you've selected a site. You've had the Premier show a keen interest in it, the Treasurer. We're at open days where you've cut some ribbons. How is that progressing so far? Have we had any progress there?
Well, actually, just before we go on to the site, we were in Queensland last week, and we were up there for a week for a number of different reasons. And one of those was actually to run a workshop in which we discussed the scale-up aspects of our technology.
Yeah.
And I think that's something, Harry, you might want to talk to.
We actually presented two papers. One was at the Australian Protein Conference, where we talked about the technology. And then there was a workshop that was held at the AIBN, the Australian Institute of Bioengineering and Nanotechnology. That session was sponsored by Aegros, but we had case studies presented by 3 other companies, and then the Aegros technology as well.
Yeah.
And it was very, very well received. And I think that what I presented both papers, and what I was trying to do was to show people that for us, scale up is quite different from the usual scale up that you see in biotechnology. For us, the cartridge is already scaled up, and it's very akin to a solar panel. You need 1 gigawatt, you use 1 solar panel. 2 gigawatts, you use 2 solar panels. So literally, it's just the duplication and the replication of those cartridges which constitute the scale up. And that engendered a number of questions, and people were actually quite excited about where else we can use our technology, and it served its purpose.
Now, there was a video of that. We might see if we can get that on to the end of this,
Absolutely.
Sean.
Now, we also, just to answer your question, Sean, visited the Queensland Treasury, where again, they were updated on what we are doing, and where we are in terms of a number of things. We can very happily report today that we just signed off for the heads of agreement, a binding heads of agreement with Springfield for the site. So that is something that we have been negotiating for quite some time. That's now been fully signed off on. We've also been receiving very positive feedback from our development application. That development application is now in its final throes.
This is with Ipswich Council.
Ipswich Council.
Yeah.
So we expect to get that in the next few weeks as well. And then, of course, there's been a lot of basic and detailed design work that's being done in the background with our engineering company as well. So things are moving quite rapidly, but we are concentrating on ensuring that we do things right. This is a huge project, and you want to make sure that you get the right people involved, the right people appointed, but also companies who are going to be working with us are companies that we can rely upon and who can actually deliver what they promise.
That's unreal. This scale up, I'll just touch on that briefly. We had one of our clients in Spain holiday, and they went and had a look at the new machine for Sydney, the scaled up version, and they saw it fractionating. I know we've had strategic partners or potential strategic partners go and have a look at this new fractionating machine in Spain as well. I mean, all these things that you're doing are creating a lot more value for Aegros shareholders. I mean, the continued progress that you've had in Sydney, the continued progress that you're having in Queensland, it really ups the valuation for shareholders and that potential strategic investor. Now, I think the strategic potential investor coming in, hopefully by the end of the year, is there anything we can talk of what that valuation may be and where they may come in at? Have you had any more progress or feedback there?
Well, we had the valuation of the company done, I want to say back in, I think it was January, where it was done. And at that stage, it valued the company at $1.74 billion. And since then, obviously, we've done the Sentinel group. Since then, we have signed off on the HOA with the Springfield group. Since then, we've got the supply of plasma, which we're now assured. So there's a whole series of small steps, but every one of them is a concrete step that we've gone through to get ourselves to a better position. And one of the things that Hari and I keep coming back to, it's one of our values, it's delivery. And we are not interested in discussing what we're gonna do. What we're interested in telling you is what we have done. And these are the plans. And every time we hit one of those milestones, we'll say it's just got that much better because we hit that milestone. So to that point, we had the factory acceptance testing, which is what you were talking about in Barcelona, where we've got our HFO2, the next scale up one, the one that'll do over 100,000 litres, is being assembled there in an engineering organisation in Barcelona. And a couple of the fractionators actually turned up to visit this thing to see just how real it was. And they were very impressed. That has led to a whole series of additional, in their view, points of confirmation or validation of the technology. And without going into any details, those are the things that you would expect to occur as the interest level becomes clearer and more concrete in their minds. Because remember that we are talking about a company at the other end of the world who is putting his little hand up and saying, look at me, I can do twice what you can do with your existing process, and you've been doing so for the best part of 100 years. There is, I would think, a degree of healthy skepticism is how I think we would describe their view. And it's this dragging them from, there's no way you can do that, guys, you're just smoking, go away and leave me alone, to, gee, I need to get involved in this, because if I don't, my business will disappear. So I think that is going to continue on, this educational process, as the Macquarie guys refer to it. I think that'll go on until probably close to the end of the year. When we've got clinical trial results, we'll have the plant here that they can look at and the application before the TGA for registration.
Yeah, the question you asked, Sean, has actually much larger implications. I think that our shareholders must know that there is an overarching plan that John and I have and have been working on as far as the company is concerned. One of the major things with a plasma fractionator is the source material, the plasma.
Yes.
You can build as many plants as you want, but if you can't get hold of the plasma, then you're not going to be able to do anything. Now, we've ticked the box for that. We have actually signed a contract with a US-based company for the provision of this plasma, 100,000 liters over the next 3 years per year. We have also appointed very recently Dr. Ranjit Ajmani, who has been variously described as the father of plasma in India. And Ranjit's history, and this is a real doyen in the space, where he has been instrumental in writing the regulatory rules for collection of plasma and fractionation in India, and therefore it's then spilled out into the Southeast Asian region. The reason why we wanted Ranjit to join us, other than the obvious, is also the fact that we want to go into Asia and get hold of the plasma from each one of those countries coming to us. And that's going to be the major task that Ranjit is going to be, it has been tasked with. So he's going to get plasma from emerging countries. The reality of the situation is that the smaller emerging countries cannot aspire to have a fractionation plant in their own right. It's difficult, but they can collect the plasma. They do collect plasma, and that plasma then can come back to us here in Australia or in any of the replication projects that we may have in either Asia or the Middle East or wherever. So that has been part and parcel of what it is that we've been trying to do. There's an overarching plan that we want to ensure that the company that we're building is not only built on the technology, but the other resources which enable the technology to function.
Yeah, so first of all, I would encourage all of our shareholders to go and have a look at the report we have on our LinkedIn, which talks to Ranjit, who is, as you said, without peer. I mean, he's on as in WHO committees. He is so well regarded, it's not funny. But the thing that pleased me, I'm not surprised, pleased me, was the number of inquiries that we have received post his appointment from countries in Asia looking to do something now that Ranjit has joined us, because they know that that's what he is involved in. So this is going to be game-changing for us, and it speaks, the other thing it talks to, when people like Ranjit join a company like Aegros, it speaks volumes to the company, because he doesn't put his personal reputation at risk by joining anything but a quality company.
The other thing that we can announce today is that we have been able to secure, through a collaboration with the Australian Institute of Bioengineering and Nanotechnology, AIBN, laboratory in Brisbane. So the University of Queensland has said that we could open a lab in their facility, and that lab will have up to about 7 researchers. But this is a prelude to the Australian project that we have, the Global Centre for Bioseparation Excellence. So this is something that we're pushing in a big way. And this is an international collaboration that we are going to be pushing so that we can establish ourselves as the focal point of research for bioseparation. And again, I want to bring this back to what it is that we're trying to do. Aegros, whilst we have, I think, the best technology, plasma separation technology in the world, we don't want to be just married to that technology. We need to be open to bringing in other inventions. We need to sponsor, we need to stimulate innovators to come up with new ways of doing things. which will only enhance our technology, but more to the point, it then cements our future. And that is what we have been working on in the background.
Now, that all sounds very good. A lot to download there. I guess one thing which we've got to think about, a lot of this costs a lot of money. And the ability for Aegros to have that validation of 1.7 billion, which is an external valuation, is quite high. What we're currently offering shareholders, we're doing another $10 million round. We've successfully completed each and every other one. Successfully, we've had to oversubscribe some because demand means that high. The current offer is at $12.50 a share, and that's based on an $890 million valuation, supported by all this growth that the company's experienced. So there'll be a term sheet attached to this email. If you are interested, please let us know. But it's all very exciting. It appears everything's going on well. The clinical trial's progressing sensationally. The upgrade's happening. Queensland's happening. There seems to be a lot of attraction to Aegros externally, with people knocking on your door all the time. Lab space, the Queensland University, that's some big important people taking note of what we're doing. I mean, we just downloaded a lot today. Is there any additional developments?
Well, no, but wait, Sean, there's more. So, look, I'm always reluctant, as is Hari, to talk about things that are going to happen, because that's not who we are. But let us give you a couple of tasters of things that are coming. The first one is, because of Ranjit, we now have access to a large volume of plasma out of Asia that no other fractionator can process. And I think that's important to understand. It's not like this is something that over time they can extract. They cannot. Our process is the only one that can actually deal with that plasma. So that gives us access to a very cheap source of plasma in a very large volume. The other thing that came out of that is there's at least 2 projects where we have been approached recently by researchers who have got interest in getting other things out of plasma. And we are going to set up, in conjunction with, as part of this Centre of Excellence, Bioseparation Excellence, we're going to set up at least 2 projects where we're going to put researchers together, and they will take additional products which will be sourced from what we manufacture using our existing process. That's the first thing. The second thing, and this is probably not a surprise to some, we obviously do a lot of research, therefore we have an ability to claim the R&D tax refund. We closed our accounts. We have lodged already with Oz Industry. We will be putting our full tax return in before the end of this month is out. That tax return will give us a minimum of $12 million back in cash. So that I would expect to come in by probably September, October. So therein lies another big tick for the company.
So I think, Sean, we have actually announced quite a few things today. I can tell you that every morning I definitely come into work very excited, and what we have is a committed staff who are making things happen, and we hope to continue coming and announcing and updating our shareholders of where the company is going.
But the next, if you think about the milestones that are going forward, the next one obviously is completion of the 12 participants in our clinical trial. Then there will be a lodgement of that with the ARTG or the TGA for registration. There will be the completion of the facility at the end of this year, beginning of next year, depending on how long it takes. And there'll be breaking ground in Queensland. Yeah. I think they're the milestones.
Next few things on our cards. Yeah.
But we will, and as we've said on many occasions, the IPO is predicated on completing a clinical trial, getting TGA registration of our facility here, getting first sales and breaking ground in Queensland. Once we've got those, we will list, and that is just a matter of time.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, guys. I really appreciate it. I know you're very busy, and what we'll look forward to doing is, as we progress with this clinical trial, there's more progress with the company. We'll sit down again so we can keep our shareholders updated. We really do value your time, and thank you very much for seeing us today.
Not a problem. Take care.
Bye.
Hello, my name is Damien Thornton. I'm the CEO of Aegros Therapeutics and Engineering. I'm here today with Jody Putz, the CEO of Telstar, at the Telstar headquarters in Terrassa, just outside Barcelona. We're here today to start the factory acceptance test of our new HFO2. This is an evolution of our technology and is capable of, from an 8 separation unit, producing and processing up to 150,000 litres of blood plasma per annum. Once we have finished the FAT, then Telstar will dismantle the hemofrac and will basically send it across to our Hyperimmune facility in Macquarie Park in Sydney. Jordy, anything you want to add?
Yeah, we are very happy to collaborate with Aegros in the evolution of this solution. We are pretty sure that this will be a paradigm shift in the blood plasma fractionation, and we are very happy to contribute a little bit with this machine.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Professor Hari Nair, co-founder of Aegros, here to introduce the Australian-invented hemofrac. Housed in our state-of-the-art 4,000 square meter plant in Sydney, we use the hemofrac to make Covimmune, a hyperimmune against COVID-19. Research and development is key to our success, creating a revolutionary 4-step process with yields of 90% and product purity of 99%. Membrane technology is the heart of hemofrac, and we make our own right here on site. The hemofrac lives in our TGA GMP approved clean rooms, making hyperimmunes from blood plasma. And we have our own extensive warehouse capacity. Aegros is replicating our hemofrac all over the world as we aim to provide self-sufficiency in blood plasma medicines, in line with the WHO mandate. We are Aegros, patients first through innovation.
Plasma is a soup of over 3,000 proteins. In fact, there's things in plasma that we don't even know exist yet. At the moment, only about 25 of them are used, and there's a whole gamut of other proteins that have biological effects that could be used in therapies. For me, it's a really exciting opportunity in creating new medicines that are going to help cure diseases.
Aegros came to us at AIBN because AIBN houses very specialised research platforms that are not readily available elsewhere, and so that met a gap in their research needs. What Aegros are tasking us to do is more in the membrane development. So they're looking at us to be able to scale up their production of the membranes in a cost-effective way, as well as a new fabrication technology and new materials. And the new materials part is what's going to help purify those other proteins that they haven't been able to purify before.
It's a great mix of multidisciplinary areas that come together to give us these products.
Industry partnerships are important because it allows the average scientific or technological graduate to understand where they can use their skills. You don't want graduates coming out thinking, yeah, well, I've got an engineering degree and that's it. You need to be able to get them to appreciate where they can work and how they can work. If nothing, it actually shows you the ability that industry and universities can actually work together and come up with the sort of solutions industry needs in an environment where we are looking at a commercialization of a technology. Innovation is fundamental in developing what I think needs to be an Australian culture of actually having competent graduates working in all areas of science and technology. At the end of the day, the universities get something out of it, we get something out of it, and Australia gets something out of it.